So I hear you're struggling with editing. You're feeling a bit slow. I got you. So in this video, I'm gonna share with you guys 10 tips on how to become a faster editor. Because as a full-time content creator or anyone who wants to build their own personal brand, editing is gonna become your biggest bottleneck. So the faster you get at editing, the more content you're gonna be able to put out and the more you're gonna be able to grow. And as well have some time to enjoy life. So if you wanna speed up your editing process, the first thing that you gotta do before you even turn on that camera or start sitting at your computer to start edit is to plan your video. Instead of just going with the flow and filming throughout the day and having all this footage to go through and cull, actually take the time to plan out your video, make a shot list so that you know exactly what you need to film for that video. That way, when you're on set and you started filming, you'll be confident and know I have the footage that I need to make this video possible. Doing this, you'll not only save a whole bunch of time in the filming process, but then as well in the editing process, because you'll have way less footage to go through and you'll have exactly the footage that you need to make the video. For all my YouTube videos, I am scripting them out and as well planning out what kind of shots I want for that video. That way it just streamlines the whole editing process. Now, once you are done filming and you are ready to edit, the second thing that you gotta do in order to become a faster edit is eliminate all distractions. And I mean everything. You see, nowadays, this little guy can be your best friend and your worst enemy all at the same time. Because if you wanna be a fast editor, you need to get into that flow state. But if you have this guy around, you're most likely gonna be getting a lot of notifications throughout the day, meaning while you're editing, all of a sudden you're gonna see a notification, you're gonna look away, be distracted, you might even pick up your phone, and every time you pick up your phone, you are gonna get out of that flow state. In order to be a fast editor, you wanna get in that concentrated flow state of mind, but the problem is, every time that you get distracted and you look away and you turn away from that editing program, it's gonna take you around 10 to 15 minutes to get back into that flow state again. So you get in that flow state, it takes 15 minutes to get in that flow state, you get a notification, you look at it, then you start editing again. Again, it's gonna take 15 minutes to get in that flow state. And all of a sudden, you're gonna realize that your editing has been so slow and so inefficient because you've just been so distracted. So what I like to do is, first, I like to put my phone and my laptop on Do Not Disturb mode, and then I put my phone out of sight, because when it's out of sight, it's out of mind, and even if I'm getting notifications or getting all these messages or calls, it's okay, I can answer them later. And instead, I can just focus on editing and get the job done. There's been times where I get in that flow state and I can easily edit a whole YouTube video in 1 or 2 hours, but if I'm constantly getting distracted, it might take 2 to 3 days. So before you start editing, eliminate all distractions. I swear, it's gonna be a game changer for you. All right, the next 3 tips we're gonna rapid fire through because in some ways they're so self-explanatory, but the moment you hear them, you're gonna be like, that changes everything. So tip number 3 is whenever you're editing, watch in double speed. Instead of watching your talking head shots in normal speed, just press to double speed, and that way you're saving half the time. Game changer. Tip number 4, look at the waveforms. Whenever you're cutting through a whole bunch of talking shots, you can look through the waveforms and you'll see when you're talking, when you mess up, when you're talking, when you mess up, and often the last take of that sequence is gonna be the best one, so that's what I do. I just look, listen to the start, go to the next one, go to the next one, and I'll find the last one, and that's the one. Trim the start, trim the end, and we're ready to go. So look at the waveform, it's gonna help you a lot when you're editing. Tip number 5, stop rewatching. This is something I'm very guilty of. I'll often be editing, I'll edit like 10, 20, 30 seconds of footage, start from the beginning, rewatch, edit a little bit more, start from the beginning, rewatch, and on and on and on. I bet you when I'm editing a 10 to 15 minute video and if I keep going back and rewatching, I actually end up wasting hours of time. So instead of rewatching all the time, try to edit as much as you can and then rewatch and then go back and tweak and make changes. But don't just keep going back, rewatch, keep going back, rewatch, because you're gonna end up wasting a whole bunch of time. Tip number 6, use your keyboard shortcuts. When you're editing, you're often repeating the same action over and over again. And if you're spending a whole bunch of time using your mouse cursor or searching in the search bar for a certain effect or action, you're gonna waste a whole bunch of time. Whereas if you have the keyboard shortcuts nailed, you are gonna be able to be just quickly cutting through all your footage and just going through it in seconds. For me personally, I use 3 keyboard shortcuts the most, and that's Q, W, and X. And for those ones, I have assigned Q as trim start, and then W, trim end, and then X is cut. And for me, the way those keyboard shortcuts work is when I'm editing my footage, there's a clip that I don't want the certain part of the beginning, I'll go find the part that I do want, I'll press trim start, and then I'll go to the end, and the part that I don't want, I go trim end, and then if there's moments where I need to cut something through, I'll press X. Basically with QW and X, I can quickly just edit through all the footage, cutting out the beginning, cutting out the end, and then if I need to cut certain parts of the clip with just a cut tool, I'll use X. I'm sure there are a whole bunch of other keyboard shortcuts that can really help the whole editing process, but those are the 3 keyboard shortcuts I use the most in Final Cut Pro. Tip number 7, we're going to talk about music. If there's one way you want to speed up your whole editing process, it's by having a music library. Because we all know as editors, one of the most time-consuming and painful parts of the whole editing process is finding a song. So instead of every single time you start a new project having to go and find music, what I do is I go and look through, for example, Artlist or Epidemic Sound, the 2 song listening websites that I'm often using the most, and I'll spend a few hours just to get a whole bunch of songs and make a whole song library. And I'll often break down my songs into different categories. I'll have, the epic B-roll songs, I'll have the chill, more vibing music songs that I can have for just a vlog, and then I'll have the songs that I like to put behind the talking headshots. Having those 3 folders with a whole variety of songs that I can use always at my disposal is so helpful for the editing process, and I'd highly recommend doing it. And not only songs, I also do this with sound effects. I have a whole folder with all sorts of sound effects that I'm often using in a lot of my videos. For example, a shutter sound effect, or a cash register, or a whoosh, whatever kind of sound effects that would best work for the video that I'm making. Tip number 8 and 9 have to do with this episode's sponsor, which is Motion VFX. You guys all know that I absolutely love motion effects. I think they speed up my whole editing workflow when it comes to all the different effects and text and tracking that I'm doing in each video. But things have just gotten even better. Just recently, Motion VFX announced the Design Studio, which is its own extension in Final Cut Pro. So now you no longer need to go to the website and download a pack and then install it into Final Cut Pro and then have access to it. You actually have your own extension with Design Studio, and you can search for different kinds of elements and graphics and titles that you might want for your videos, and immediately just click download and you're ready to go drag and drop them into your timeline. As well, you can search by different themes or attributes to find the exact kind of element you're looking for. And what I'm most excited about is that you could actually build your own collections, which means you can build your own library of different elements and assets that you're often using on a daily basis. That way you don't have to go and find them everywhere. You can just have your 10 top favorite titles and effects right in one library, or you can have a library built for a specific project so that you have that for that one video. So now Motion VFX has really just streamlined the whole process even more. And on top of that, which is tip number 9, Captions. So something that's been really frustrating for me personally in my editing workflow is that I've often been editing my reels, exporting them out, and then I've been dragging them into my iPhone and using the Captions app to make captions, and it hasn't been that good. And I've always wanted to be able to do the captions and everything all directly in Final Cut Pro. Now Motion VFX has released Captions, which is a really great extension directly in Final Cut Pro, and it's really easy to use. Let me show you. All right, so when you've installed Captions and you open up Final Cut Pro, in the top left corner, you're gonna find this new extension, and you can click Captions and it's gonna open up a brand new window for you. Now, the cool thing about Captions is you can drop in pretty much any video that you can watch in QuickTime in there, or an MP3 file, or you can just drag and drop the project from Final Cut Pro directly into that. And then from there, you can either choose auto language, or you have a selection of 90 different languages to choose from, which is just crazy. I'm gonna just choose the auto, and then we're gonna press Analyze Video. Now, depending on how fast your computer or laptop is and how long the video is, it's gonna take longer or less time. This is a 14-minute video, so it's gonna take longer. Okay, it didn't actually take that long, but depending on the size of the video and how fast your computer is gonna go faster or slower. Now, once you've analyzed the video, you have 50 different styles to choose from. For example, I can choose this style, and then from here, I can change the size of my text. I can change the position. I can change how wide I want to be in the sense of how many words do I want to come on one line. So let's say I want like 5 lines. You can choose 1 or 2 lines. And then as well here you go to more settings and you can decide, do you want to animate word by word? Do you want to be animating in and animating out? Do you want it all lowercase or uppercase? And do you want to hide punctuation? So there's a whole bunch of ways to customize your subtitles. So once you've figured out your style and everything you want for your captions, all you're gonna do is then just drag from here to the beginning of your video timeline. Then you can close the M captions and look at that. I have now captions for my whole video. Moves. Now I'm gonna be filming with the iPhone 16 Pro, which I recently got, and this rig, we'll talk about it. Literally doing the captions for videos took me so long doing it manually, and then the process of having to drag and drop a video to my phone and do it there and try to figure it all out there has been so painful, but now M Captions has just sped up my whole editing process by so much. If you are interested in trying out Design Studio or M Captions, Motion VFX has been kind enough to offer a 14-day trial using the link in my description. And then if you find that it really helps with your whole editing process, you can sign up for their annual subscription plan, which is gonna be 15 bucks a month for Design Studio Essentials, or then $24 for Design Studio Professional. The difference between the two monthly packages is that you're gonna be getting more elements and more assets in the professional version, but then in the essential package, you'll still get over 3,100 assets and access to M Captions. So both are great options depending on what your needs are. And the last and final tip for becoming a faster editor is tip number 10, use presets. There are so many amazing presets out there to just help the whole speeding process, and you don't have to manually do everything by yourself each time. For example, I'm using for my grading process my own cinema collection every single day. And for 50 bucks, you're getting access to a color correction LUT and as well 10 different grading LUTs. And the way to use these cinema LUTs is so simple. All you do is drag and drop an adjustment layer on top of your footage, then add 2 custom LUTs, and with the first custom LUT, add the color correction LUT from log to Rec 09 if you're filming in log. If you're not filming in log, you could skip that step. And the second custom LUT, you can add a grading LUT. I often love using my Cinema LUT 2 and then as well Cinema LUT 10. When you add a LUT, make sure you adjust the strength. You don't need to have it 100%, so you can bring it down to around 60 to 70% depending on what works for you. And already you have a great looking base start to your footage, and from there you just gotta do basic corrections with the white balance and exposure and maybe some hue and saturation, and you're good to go. So if you wanna be a fast editor, make sure you're using presets. I'll also link down in the description my cinema collection if you're interested in checking those out. They do work for other cameras other than just Sony, but in this package, I only added a color correction LUT for just Sony cameras, but there is a whole bunch of color correction LUTs for Canon and other cameras out there. So just use those and then you can use the 10 different grading LUTs available. All right, that's 10 tips for becoming a faster editor. Hopefully you're no longer the tortoise, but the hare. Catch the reference? We'll see you in next week's video.